know exactly how many, but it's established.
We have some of the tallest buildings in the world. Did you know
that? No, I'm not an architecture expert, but I disavow the implication. Moving on. Last week we discussed what was said to be a done deal. An agreement announced between 10 Republican and 10 Democratic senators on gun control. The deal primarily included money for states to set up red flag laws and a more thorough background check process for those under 21 buying semi-automatic rifles, among some other provisions. Well, now it looks like the deal is falling apart, or is at least stalled. On Thursday, Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn, the lead Republican negotiator appointed by Mitch McConnell, walked out of the talks, making it unlikely there will be a vote on any bill before the 2-week July 4th recess.
This is a surprise.
Well, there are apparently two provisions that are causing the holdup. One involving the red flag laws, or the support for them, and one involving the so-called boyfriend loophole. This is what I was a little bit confused about last week, about domestic abuse.
Boyfriend loophole?
That's what they're calling it.
Sorry, my mind's still on this peachy bottom thing.
Yeah. Maybe they stole that term from the Bottoms Digest as well. But it's these two provisions that are causing the holdup here. So on red flag laws, again, if you're unfamiliar with the term, these would be laws that enable a court to order someone's firearms seized if the court deems that person a threat to himself or to others, not necessarily, in fact, by design, without any time or any type of conviction or even a charge.
Right.
It's not like you've been convicted of a crime and have to sacrifice your firearms because of that. The court thinks that you're a dangerous person, so they send police to take them anyway. It's an arrangement that has been deadly in a few instances across the country already in recent years. Recall though, the idea here is not for the federal government to do that. The idea is for the federal government to offer grants, to offer money for states to set up their own programs. Well, Cornyn and Republicans want states to be able to take that money and repurpose it for other things like mental health or school security or other ideas, not necessarily that you have to use the money for red flag. Democrats disagree with that. So the holdup is this money that's available to states, does it have to be red flag or not? Republicans don't want it mandatory red flag to cash in.
Right.
Okay. On domestic violence, we discussed last week, current federal law prohibits a person convicted of even misdemeanor domestic violence from possessing a gun. But only if that violence was in fact domestic, as in the same home. So it has to be violence against someone you are married to, or you live with, or you have a child with. So if you
beat up a woman on the street, that's
wouldn't count. As long as it was a misdemeanor.
What if you beat up your wife on the street?
Probably would count. Yeah, you're married. So even an ex-wife, I think, would count. But the point is, and this is what separates this too, is a misdemeanor, say assault or battery in that case, would prohibit you from firearm possession. A generic misdemeanor or assault or battery like a bar fight would not.
Okay.
And so what they're trying to do is say that we want to expand what counts as domestic violence to include simply dating. So this new idea would prohibit people from having guns on even a misdemeanor conviction involving someone you are dating, not even living with, as long as the relationship is, quote, of a romantic or intimate nature.
Okay.
But Republicans are concerned the standard is too broad. Cornyn said, quote, this has got to be something other than, one date. I can see basically what you're worried about is someone like, well, Amber Heard's a bad example because they were married and they lived together. But let's say you go on one date with Amber Heard and she becomes vindictive and weird. All of a sudden, if she's able to secure some kind of misdemeanor accusation or charge or conviction against you, then you have to surrender your guns, which I could see as a situation ripe for abuse.
Definitely.
In general, if you ask me, I don't care whether it's in the home, outside the home. If it's not a felony, I'm not necessarily all that concerned about it. I think this better standard is felony versus misdemeanor rather than who did you assault or why. But that's just my 2 cents. And before we get too far ahead, though, I would just want to rewind and remind ourselves the reason for all of this. Buffalo and Uvalde. Neither one of these incidents had anything to do with domestic violence or dating violence. It's just whatever Democrats can scoop up to chip away at your rights, and whatever certain cowardly Republicans will do in the name of so-called compromise that, of course, always compromises in one direction and never in the other. Most likely path for this bill, this developing bill, nothing happens before senators start leaving for the holiday on Friday, June 24th. That's next or this coming Friday. Talks probably resume in July, but we'll see.